Hey everyone, it's Craig Syracusa. Welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what inspires them? Do we know what motivates them? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
On this episode of Walk in Faith, former Olympian TRISH PORTER TOPMILLER shares the story of her personal tragedy and the redemptive faith that helped her to find life, love, and hope anew.
Trish, thank you so much. I'm sitting here with Trish Porter Topmiller. We're going to discuss a new book, King Here. We spoke off camera, but I don't think I put the book down for more than 5 minutes.
Oh,
it was no, really. It was just I just kept reading and reading, but I felt like I was part of the adventure because the way you wrote it, was to me it was like more of like a journal. So I felt like I was part of it. So in case the audience is not familiar with your story and your father's story, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and the story?
I was on the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. And there I ended up at the Olympics meeting my husband of 20 years, Pat Porter, who was a two-time Olympian in distance running. And so that was kind of, in some sense, the beginning. And my father was kind of an amazing man. And as you talked about, the adventures kind of draw you in. He loved adventures, outrageous adventures. So we rode our Harley motorcycles to Sturgis, South Dakota. We went hot air ballooning. Well, one of my favorites was he once took a date. He flew her on a private jet from San Francisco to LA so they could have dinner on the Goodyear blimp over the city lights in Los Angeles. A lot of good date points.
Oh
right?
My God. I called my wife from an airplane once. It was like $50 a minute. I was going to Italy, and that was it. After that, I won her over. Yeah. It was a phone call. I was like, hey, Dade, it's me, Craig. I'm on a plane. Yeah. Sitting in coach.
For his honeymoon, he flew around the world in 26 days on the Concorde.
And these are all real stories, right?
These are real stories.
Just made up. Oh
these are real stories. They flew around the world on the Concorde in 26 days, which is a supersonic jet. New country every day. So he was this kind of larger than life man. But yet he was a multimillionaire, self-made, but he really wasn't about things. Mm-hmm. Things weren't important. He liked adventures and he liked including people in his adventures.
What do you think if he was to pick one accomplishment or something that he was most proud of or was exciting, what would it be? Him riding on his Harley, getting married, like what would he pick?
Well, first he'd probably say his children. He'd probably say his children. But next, you know what? He was very proud of the fact that he got married in Las Vegas at a drive-up window on a Harley, and it cost him $30.
$30.
$30.
And who took that picture? I saw it in your book.
I know. I think it was a professional photographer. I think that because he's like, I got married, for $30.
I know. Was it the excitement of the $30, or was it the excitement that he got? I was trying to figure that out.
The Harley, he loved being on the Harley. That was a big deal for him. But the drive-up window, and it's not a story that you hear very often. I think that's for him. He liked to tell stories, and that was a great story to talk about.
I know, and like you said, you had in your book. But one thing, too, I read the book, and you didn't speak a lot about yourself, right? Which is a testament to yourself. I mean, you're a selfless, woman. But I was interested and really fascinated to learn more about you. It was like only a page or two here and there about, you were in the Olympics. Was it a world record as well?
So I had 2 children, and then I took 11 years off of competing, and then I went back on the master's level, and I broke the world record for women age 40 to 44.
Okay.
So I jumped as high as I did at age 40 as I did in high school.
So that was a couple of years ago, right?
Just 2 or 3. Just a few. And I was the first girl in Little League Baseball in Northern California.
I'm just curious, like, why? I think it's great. I really do. I wish I would have known a little bit more, and I'm glad that we're here now to talk about it.
Book, actually, probably, is a little bit more history with a little bit more of the future, too.
Like I said, it really just shows what type of person you are. You have an opportunity and a platform to speak about yourself as well as your father, and you took this opportunity to just talk about, your family and your father, and it's such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
It's just
my relationship with him, really. It's kind of father-daughter.
It's a beautiful book. It really is. So now, when you were writing the book, right? I know we spoke off camera a little bit about it, but what did this book do for you personally, spiritually, emotionally? Because, it's difficult to write a book, and it's more like a journal. What did this do for you while you were writing it?
I do think it helped process. The book really came about when getting ready to speak at his funeral, and I kind of had this outline. I looked back on his life, and I realized he had all these amazing accomplishments, but then he had some pretty serious tragedies. And then I saw all these miracles and how the pieces of the puzzle fit together that I didn't realize at the time, and that we were all so upset over certain things happening. But yet it was really how God used all of those pieces to come together in the end for my dad.
It's beautiful. We'll take a quick break. I have a lot more questions for you. Be right back with Trish Porter Topmiller, King here. Welcome back. We're with Trish. Trish, like I said earlier, love the book. So we spoke about your father a little bit, and he was always trying to find new adventures and experience new things. Why was he doing that? I mean, I was trying to figure out, was he running from something? Was there something going on? Was it just a thrill of the moment? Like, what was really going on inside? And we'll get to what happens later on in his life, but why was he so driven?
I wish I really knew, but I think there's a part of him that was a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. He liked the high. He liked those feelings. He was an athlete, competitive gymnast. He won gymnastics at state championships in high school. So I think, you like that adrenaline high. And so I think he transferred that to life and then later work. Maybe he grew up in a family with alcoholic parents. So the answer is yeah, he probably was running from something because he didn't really ever address that. He wasn't super good interpersonal with deep down personal communications and intimacy with people as a result.
I know, because you said in your book too about conversations, like there was no small talk.
Yeah.
There was very
Oh yeah, it was to the point. It was short, to the point, and no chit chat. And he would say, yeah, you're talking too much. He would literally, okay.
That wouldn't fly in this day and age, right? I mean, because the way we're parenting, and especially towards our kids now, it's very different. Like emotion, I know, I always say my father too, he grew up, they came from Italy, and they don't really show emotion the same way.
Yes.
So now we overcompensate the way we treat our children. Everything is, I love you, I love you. I love that,
yes.
right? But back then it was very different. It wasn't really, the thing to do for a man to show their love and affection verbally. It was more through actions or bringing home the bacon or whatever they would do.
Yes, that was always the standard.
That's it.
No, he would say, okay, you've used up your words for today. But
did you break that cycle, or are you similar to where your father was?
I hope I've broken the cycle. I am like my dad as far as I love the great, outrageous experiences, and I love sharing that with other people. So my girlfriends, after they read the book, they went, oh, you're like your dad with that.
Really?
Because I've taken my friends on some really fun experiences.
Like what? What would you?
We've flown to Beaver Creek, Colorado, and gone skiing, and so we've spent 5 days there, and maybe we've gone to a really nice restaurant, something unique. So
close, but not like you.
not
like a hot air
his,
balloon.
no,
Because your father was on a hot air balloon. There's a photo of him. Somebody's climbing up the rope. I'm like, unbelievable.
That case, along with my cousin, we were in the balloon and we were tethered to the car, and the tether let go, and so we were 12 or something, and the balloon was flying away, and so my brother went and jumped up and grabbed the rope with that one. And my dad, instead of being worried about us, he was trying to get the perfect photo.
Yeah, it's what it looks like. It looks fake.
He sat there, we're flying away, headed towards...
it's like a movie.
Yeah, and he's on the ground going, click, click.
Well, I mean, it worked out well because it's in your book.
It's a great photo.
And now I'm talking about the photo.
Yeah.
Your father, self-made, made millions of dollars, and at some point, I know you said he invested a lot in the stock market, and then things changed.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Yes.
What happened? And you were vague about money, and you don't have to tell me exactly, but I was trying to get a feel of what did he lose, and how devastating was this?
He lost a lot of money. So put it this way.
Like $100 or like $1 million?
Put it this way. He felt his financial fortress was invincible. And he looked at me once and said, I have more money than God. And if I lost half my money, I'd still be rich.
Wow.
Okay, so that was where, his platform. He had no need for God. And, most people would be conservative, and maybe they'd take half of it and save it, right? If you're 72 years old.
Diversify, right? Diversify your portfolio.
Save that, and then let me spend and, be aggressive with the other half. but he didn't. He was aggressive, and he did not listen to anybody's advice, actually. All the people around him said, don't do what you're doing. And then in 2007, 2008, on the big downturn, he lost about 97% of his money.
Wow.
You know, he still had what you and I would consider a lot of money.
And then during that time, I know he wound up taking opioids and stuff like that, and his life sort of took a turn. Was that due to the decrease in his portfolio, or like when did he get hooked on opioids?
So literally right after he lost his money and was losing his money, I guess, all of a sudden he said his back started to hurt. And so he started going to doctors. And the doctors, they gave him lots of Oxycontin and lots of oxycodone, opioids, narcotics, highly addictive. So he became addicted very quickly. I mean, he would get a prescription for 200 pills at several different places and locations. So it was all at that same time. I never got a diagnosis for what was wrong with his back. As an Olympian, right, I like health and I know a lot about the body. And so I would try to say, you know, what's wrong? Are you doing physical therapy? Is there any surgery you can do? Or, you know, something along that line. But all he wanted to do was take the pills. Wow. So he went from this amazing man who loved adventures and loved activities and hiking, or he climbed the Matterhorn, played tennis, to sleeping 23 hours a day and not getting out of his bed.
And how many years was this going on for before, you know, he passed? Like, was this a couple of years?
9 years, almost 10 years. Yeah, and he had married a woman who was 20 years younger than him. And she ended up also becoming addicted. So the two of them, literally their whole world changed to, it was all about the pills and then getting the pills and then being in bed.
Oh my God.
So he called it his back cave.
Yeah, I know you said.
And so
dark windows.
Yeah, it was blackout window shades that he kept closed all day long, and he called it the back cave. And so it was all dark, and that's where he stayed, and that's what he did, you know, 22, 23 hours a day.
You know, and this was difficult for me to read, and I was telling my wife about it too. And then your life was hard, and then you get a phone call. Do you mind speaking about that and explaining what happened?
So we were part of his losses. So he lost his money, his health. And then one day, the Olympics were coming the next day. My son, Connor, was 15 and a fencer. He had won a medal at nationals, at the U.S. National Championships in fencing. My daughter is a figure skater. And so we were traveling back and forth from Colorado to Albuquerque so we could get coaching in Colorado. And the Olympics were coming up. And often during the Olympics, I'll do TV interviews and radio interviews, things like that. And I had some scheduled. And so we're driving back, and there on my phone, I get a call from Channel 13 TV in Albuquerque. And I think, oh, it's going to be a busy week, you know, how fun. And I pick up the phone, and there I hear a woman's voice say, can you please confirm that your husband, Pat Porter's plane went down in Sedona, Arizona? So, on that day, what do you do? What do you do? I had no idea what to do. I can't think. I pull the car over. I get in the back of the car with Shannon. And we pray. You know, we pray that they would be alive. But I knew I talked with my husband about the risks of flying. And so that day, I lost my guys. I lost half my family. I lost my 15-year-old son, my beautiful son, my husband of 20 years, and then my son's friend, Connor. So we had two Connors in the plane. My husband was the pilot. And so our world changed. Our world changed. They were our laughter. They were such a part of us.
Wow. I know, I was reading that. I was telling my wife, I was like, I can't, the way it was in the book, I was like, oh my God. Because it's something, you know, we don't ever want to think about or experience.
You don't ever think. You know, it's not how you planned your life.
Of course.
You know, just like my dad didn't plan his life the way he had planned. This was so unexpected and not the results of anything we had done or a consequence per se. It was just something that happened and affected so many of us. And so, you know, I lost my husband and son in an instant, and my 11-year-old daughter lost her dad and her brother. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting, kind of the last 6 weeks before they died. Connor, my son, would go around and tell everybody how much he loved his sister. You know, people would say, oh, you've got an 11-year-old sister. Oh, that must be. And he, oh no, I love my sister.
Wow.
And my daughter would tell everybody how much she loved her brother. And then I would tell everybody how much they loved each other. And what a gift, kind of a different gift that they really gave each other. Wow. Yeah.
And you mentioned you went in the back seat and you prayed. What happened to your faith during that time? Did you rely on it? Did it sort of affect your faith? Or did you rely on a passage? Because, I mean, at some point you got to call out to God. Like, why is this happening? Like,
yeah.
I mean, what did it do for you?
That's later, the calling out. At that moment, one, I was so glad that my first reaction was to pray, because I couldn't think, and I didn't know what to do. So all I knew is, okay, God, help us. That's literally, you're sobbing, you're crying. It's just help us. I don't know what to do. I mean, I didn't even know where to begin of who do I call? How do I figure this out? So I needed to know what truth was at the time. And so we all have a choice. That's what's so interesting with something like this. We all have a choice of how we're going to respond. And I am thankful and grateful that I respond to draw near to God. And that continued. On that first night, I was in bed with Shannon. I slept with her. And in the middle of the night, she woke up and she said, Mom, I know they're in heaven. I know they're in a better place. And I know we'll see them again one day because of their relationship with Jesus Christ. And gosh, what a platform that we could stand on. Yep. Now, just recently, I realized what a gift they gave us because they knew Jesus. We know that they're in heaven with him and we'll see them. And my hope is that, every parent, every child, because you never know when your last day is, that you can give your family that gift too. I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for that. I had that, and then I had another moment where one of my close girlfriends said, it was kind of my older mentor group. They came around me and they prayed over me. And they said, Trish, as life is crazy, you take your right hand, and this is how, your life is all over the place right now. Take your left hand like you're gonna pray, and then bring your right hand and align it up and say, I trust you, God. Mm-hmm. And so that was my visual that kind of got me through, in sense, that time was, okay, I trust you, Lord. I'm gonna stand on that during this time as I trust you. I don't understand. I don't know why. I don't know what happened in the accident. I don't know, what I'm gonna do going forward. I don't know what my life looks like, but I trust you, Lord.
Wow. What do you miss about them the most?
Oh, I just, just touch. I do this to hug. I do it to hug. I do it to. No one's ever asked me this question. Wow, their laughter, their joy, their smiles. What does my son look like now? Yeah. He'd be 22. Where would he go in school? Who would he be dating? How would he be with his sister? All of those things that we don't get to know. And of course, then losing your husband too, you've been with for 20 years of, where would we be? What would we be doing?
It's beautiful. We'll take a quick break. Be right back with Trish Porter Toppmiller. So thank you, Trish. So far, this has been fantastic. So I just want to go back for a second. Now, at the time when, the tragedy occurred, what was your father's relationship towards Jesus Christ? I know he wasn't a Christian at the time.
No, my dad didn't want to really hear about Jesus. He didn't go to church. He didn't even really go to church at Christmas. It was never a part of his life. And I'd always try and I'd always say stuff, but he'd kind of roll his eyes and humor me. And he had no relationship with the Lord.
Because it was interesting, you wrote this, and I don't believe in coincidences at all. Like, that's something, I think if we believe in God and we have faith, coincidences just don't work in my life.
Yeah.
But you wrote how I think it was Interstate 280, you wrote it 1,000 times, and for this day, you went the wrong way, but that gave the ability for James, right, who is your current husband, to minister and to, preach to your father at the time and bring him to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So there were so many crazy miracles to bring my dad to the Lord. It was really wonderful. And one was 4 years after I lost my husband, I ended up meeting another man who loves the Lord and has a heart for God and who was a businessman and who had lost his wife. And so my dad would always say, you don't understand. You don't understand how I feel. I lost my wife. But he couldn't say that to me. And he couldn't say that to James. And so that was where I went, you know what, James, we're going to go see my dad. I think you're the one who needs to share Jesus with him. I think you're the one. And he's like, I'm not sure. So we decided to pray. And we had our friends pray for us for an opening for him and that he would walk through if he had an opening. And so sure enough, Shannon and I went to go skating. And so James decided to do a Bible study in the kitchen. Now, he used to sometimes not get up till 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So this is 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. Who knew if he would come out? And he did. And so he came out and James just was bold and said, hey, I'm studying my Bible. Have you ever studied the Bible? And my dad said, no,
Not that. It's underneath the air conditioner.
Yeah.
I don't read the Bible.
No, I don't read the Bible. Like, why would I want to? And so James just started asking him questions. And the first question was, so Chuck, if you were to die today and go to heaven and be at the pearly gates, and they said, why should we let you in? What would you say? And my dad said,
I'm a good person, right? Always.
Bingo.
So they all say.
Yep, I'm a good person. And James said, well, Chuck, the problem is in heaven, the standard is perfection. And so that's the only way you can get into heaven. And Chuck, have you ever told a lie? And my dad went, yeah, I have. Well, that's a good example of sin that separates us from God. So even just one thing, which we all sin and we all fall short, myself, everybody does something wrong, then that separates us from God. But thankfully, he went on to say how, God provided Jesus' death on the cross and resurrection. And if we believe in Jesus, then we can be saved. So Chuck, you can go to heaven and you can be saved if you put your sincere trust in Christ. So he continued to talk to my dad about his wife and losing his wife. And then he ended up saying, Chuck, would you like to receive and ask Jesus into your heart?
Wow. And then he started going to church, which I love that Michael was in the front row.
Little angel.
Yeah, which I love. I have a devotion to St. Michael. But then, he was strong into his faith, but then it wasn't enough. I mean, right? Your father suffered from depression, and then at some point, he took his own life, right?
He did. We want to say, gosh, not everyone has a total dramatic life change when they accept the Lord. There are those who do become free of addiction. There are those who do see these miraculous changes. But there are also others who the changes are subtle. And here's an 82-year-old man who's never gone to church and never has done well with interpersonal communications. We want him to all of a sudden start saying, oh, well, I believe this about Jesus and, da-da-da-da-da. Well, that didn't happen. But he did get up, and go to church all by himself. He did read his Bible. They found it at different places on his bed. So there were those subtleties. And unfortunately, he was doing better. He was taking less Oxycontin. He was getting up and living a little bit more. But through a moment of weakness, a moment of mental depression or whatever he did, he took his life with the oxycodone.
You don't hear about that at all, really, especially, depression is still something like that we don't really discuss, right? It's still sort of swept under the rug, but you don't hear a lot about elderly people or older people that suffer from depression. Depression
with the narcotic addiction.
When I read that, I'm like, you don't even hear about it.
It is happening. And he was getting help and counseling for his depression. They had changed his medications the week before. So was that part of what happens? Because part of changing medications is suicide is often a side effect. So we just don't fully know the real story, but it's all a mental disorder and health. And I think we become ashamed. We become ashamed if someone's addicted. We become ashamed if they've committed suicide. But it's a mental health issue that we need to address. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to have a heart for. And hopefully we can maybe prevent other people. Somebody can hear this and say, you know what, I don't want to go down that path. I've started down that path, but stop, because it affects too many people.
I agree. When I read that in the book, I was like, wow, I didn't even Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier, just one or two more questions. You said about the puzzle, right? And you said in your book also how, the trials, the tribulations, the challenges, and everything you went through in your life, how it sort of fit together like a puzzle. And you only could see that when you look back. In the moment, you can't, right?
Correct. We don't know what the puzzle box top looks like. That's the difference. With a puzzle, you have a box top and you say, oh, this is what it looks like. We don't know what that looks like. Because I think if God showed us what it would look like, it might be a little...
Put it back on the shelf. And,
I'm not doing that puzzle. Oh, no.
Too many pieces.
So it really was. There were so many miracles that brought my dad to the point of faith in the Lord. And that's what was so wonderful. I never thought good could come out of the death of my husband and son. How could God turn that into good? But I met James as a result. And James was the one who brought him to the Lord. And I know that Pat and Connor, that they would give their lives for him and for that. And so that turns that some good actually came from it.
And your testimony. I mean, you're here today, you have a book, you're inspiring people, planting seeds. It's amazing because, and then you tell your story, you could see how God was present all the time because things just don't happen. So he was there all along, guiding you even today.
Well, you talked about, and I realized I didn't finish, you talked about going the wrong way on the freeway. That day when James was sharing with my dad, I was supposed to be home. We were done with our skating. We were supposed to get home in 20 minutes. Well, I went the wrong way on a freeway that I've gone on my whole life. And I went 30 minutes the wrong way. 30 minutes the wrong way. I wasn't on the phone. I wasn't, until all of a sudden I realized it takes 20 minutes to get home.
Which was enough time for James to
talk
all
with
of
him.
it.
So all of those puzzles.
And it's hard to look back. I mean, the only way is to look back, but it's hard in the moment. What's the intentions of the book? What do you want people to walk away with after reading this book? And where could they find the book? And do you have a website you can offer?
Website is TrishPorterTopMiller.com. And go there. You can actually get some free gifts that I can send you via email. Yep. So book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's an audio book, so all different formats, Kindle, which is fun. And I hope to encourage, inspire. It's a great, fast, easy read. So, it's a fun read that draws you in. So it gives you some nice times too, but it'll make you cry and it'll make you laugh. But hopefully it'll encourage and inspire people.
I think it'll definitely plant the seed because it did in me. It did in my life. Can you tell me some of the points in the book?
So I have in the book, I talk about how to be prepared to share Jesus with other people because there's 7 steps. And if you go to my website, TrishPorterTopMiller.com, you can get those 7 steps for being prepared to share Jesus. Then there's also how to meet Jesus. And so knowing both of those things, I think is super important if you plan on being able to share the Lord with other people.
I agree. I wrote down some of those steps.
Did you? Oh.
I did.
Excellent.
So like we were talking about, I love the book, but now you're telling me also it just won the the New York City Big Book Award?
Yep.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
So thank you very much.
Well, Trish, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to meet you. It was a great book. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Bless you too.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you pick up a copy of King Here, Trish Porter Topmiller. Always remember, guys, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. Until next time.